And Ken, it's a beautiful day. It's raining again, and that's exactly what we're looking for right now.
Yeah.
Rain, rain, rain. Not rain, rain, go away, but rain, rain,
stay for a bit.
Have a stay. Stay for a bit.
No, it's awesome. We've been pretty lucky so far, but the heat's coming. I think by next weekend it's supposed to be hot again, getting into the 30s. And but yeah, we're just lucky to get any kind of precipitation. I mean, we don't get a lot here. Like, it's raining out, but you'll see if it ever stops for 5 minutes, the roads are dry in about 5 minutes.
Yeah. Down the coast, they call this golfing weather.
Yeah, exactly. It's not real rain, but we did have a couple good downpours there in the last week or so. So it's been good. Yeah.
Well, let's get right to the tips and plants of the week.
You betcha.
My tip of the week is this. If what looks like winter kill is still not pushing, I'd say it's over. This is, there's not a lot. Now, you want to watch for stuff coming up from the base of plants, like with my Calicarpa and whatnot. But still, if it's not pushing foliage right now, it's probably done.
Or at least cut out the dead stuff.
Now you can cut out the dead stuff. Before this, you didn't know if it was dead or alive. But now I think it's not going to come back. It's looking pretty good for some of that stuff. My plant of the week is Aruncus dioacis, also known as goat's beard or bride's feathers.
Yeah,
and it's blooming.
Love that plant.
It's just coming into bloom right now in our backyard, and it's a great plant.
I love goat's beard. One of my favorite all time. Cool. Well, there you go. I also have a tip on a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that don't be surprised if your peach trees or nectarines or apricots are going to be suffering a little bit right now. Just with the way the weather's gone, a lot of diseases have come into the foliage of these soft fruits. It's just sort of one of these things that it is definitely weather related, and not much you can do about it. Even if you have done some sprays, it doesn't always work. Just keep an eye open, keep an eye on them. They're going to be dropping foliage. That's something that's going to happen, but don't worry too much about it. They will regrow leaves as needed once the season gets rolling along. All right, now my plant of the week this week is the sunburst locust, which is the Gladitia triacanthos sunburst. Gladitias or the locust family. These are again sunburst locusts. These things are really good plants, very drought tolerant, deep rooted. The sunburst locust particularly is seedless. It's considered a medium to large tree. Very nice tiny leaves that are, help to diffuse the sunlight. So they're just fabulous to have in a yard. And again, once established, they are quite drought tolerant and survive even tough growing conditions. And they're lovely right now. You drive around town and you see this bright ball of golden foliage. And you know right away, that's what it is. It's a sunburst locust. All right, that's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com and Grower Coach on YouTube.
You bet, Ken. It is time now to really get seriously gardening. I mean, I'm out there. I was out there. I got to talk about a few things that I've been doing lately in the garden, and I will. But first of all, we got to go to the phone lines because we've got Ariel joining us for her early morning call. Good morning, Ariel.
Oh, that's so nice. You guys are you make my Saturday. What the heck? Okay, two questions I have. Mm-hmm. Not time to put tomatoes out, is it?
It's pretty close. Nighttime temperatures right now are looking good. And just the last 2 nights, we had a 3 degrees the other night, which was not last night, but the night before. And that's a little too cold for a lot of plants. But you know what? Once they're out, they're out. And but now I think I'm say it's fine if you're getting a 10-degree night like we're going to have here for the next few nights. I think we're fine to go ahead with that. Actually, in introducing them out on a rainy or cool day might be better for them. Maybe not as much sunburn effect and just kind of
like today.
Yeah, kind of humid out there. That might be a little easier on them on the transplanting. The soil is very cold still, so it's not quite warm enough yet, But I think it's time. I'm going to start. I have to start doing my zucchinis, and tomatoes, and any of the warm crops. Stuff that loves the heat. The beans are going out tomorrow, so I do everything I'll be doing everything tomorrow, and then this week it's looking like sort of rainy, cool. So today, Sunday, and Monday, and then Tuesday it's going to start to get more sunny and warm up a bit. And so I do want to get them in when the temperatures are a little bit mild right now, and get them sort of situated before the heat comes.
Can you believe it? June the 1st. Isn't that what you always say, Kim?
I love it. I love it.
But Ariel, here, just to put a fly in the ointment, I've had mine out for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
My tomatoes have been out for 3 weeks.
They're shivering in their boots.
No, they're all right.
Yeah.
The first one I put out is right in the south side. And they're doing fine. So whatever, you just basically the farmers will not put out their crop until the soil temperature's 10 degrees at night, because they've got thousands of dollars worth of plants invested in. We gardeners have 2 or 3 plants, and what the heck, play dangerously and have some fun. That's what I say.
Yes, I agree. And okay, so the other question I have for you is, I have a few people around me that want to put their plants out, including myself, into the garden, like the jade plants, and the Christmas cactuses and all that. So it's not time yet, is it? Because it's pretty cold.
I've had mine out for 2 weeks. I've had
for heaven's sake,
all
you're
my
killing
tropicals
me.
and everything out for 2 weeks.
Just keep in mind, Don's in the warmest spot in the whole city. So
yeah, well, because it's pretty cool here.
It is. Yeah, well, and at my house it's still freezing
And
sometimes.
at my house right now, right looking over, out my window at my thermometer, it's 8 degrees.
Yeah, exactly. And so I would just say, look out your window, look where you are, and watch those temperatures. And Dawn and I have been recommending those minimum, maximum thermometers, for years. And a mini max thermometer is something that's super valuable to gardeners. And then, because you look on the TV and it says, oh, this is the temperature, but is it really at your house? But if you're tracking it and you can see, what the minimum is at night, when you get up in the morning, you look and you go, oh my God, it was 5 degrees last night. And the TV says it was 7. And sure, it was 7 in some locations, but, it's just a touchy thing. Tropicals particularly don't like to get too cold. I've had a couple plants now that I left out, and they were not happy about it. My tomatoes I put out about a week and a half ago, and they just stopped dead in their tracks, and now they're starting to go kind of yucky looking. But I'm hoping, I have extras, so my plan is I'm putting in more tomorrow. Again, I'm postponing everything till tomorrow because I'll give them 1 or 2 days in this kind of rainy-ish weather, and hopefully they'll set some roots out here. But it's all about warm soil, right?
Yeah,
what can you
really.
do? If you can, if I want to wait, if anything, I'm going to pull out a bunch that I already put in because they're just so they're 3 feet high. They were big when I put them in, but they've gone downhill. So I'm going to. Like I say, I'm going to replace them. As Don said, for us gardeners, take a chance and see what happens. And if they go downhill a little bit, and they'll often recover. Or if you have to replace them, it's only a few tomato plants. It's not like the farmers where they're not going to take any chances and get stuff out too early, right?
Well, you are a prince amongst princes,
king
amongst kings. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Awesome. Thanks, Ariel.
Thanks,
Have a
Ariel.
good day.
Appreciate it. Okay, bye.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
It got down to, in my backyard, I was just looking at here, my temperature shows what it got to, 12.5 degrees in my backyard last night.
Yeah, and I got, I think, 10. So.
Yeah, so, Ken, I know we, like I say, gardeners can have some fun. You don't have to put all your plants out, but have some fun. Push the envelope. That's what I say.
And now we're at the point.
Garden.
We're at June 1st.
Yeah.
And I mean, we were saying, I know a few years ago, we were getting frost right into the first week of June. And it was we were going, well, you can do what you want to do, but you have to be careful. So
we're
last
talking
night.
Kelowna. They didn't get frost in Victoria in June.
No, that's right. We're in the mountainous areas. Yeah. But in just yesterday, it was below 3 degrees at our house, so it was 2.8 or something. So we were going, oh my God, I hope stuff is happy. So we go out there and we're looking at the poor tomato plants but luckily I did have my beans. They're all sprouted and in a tray ready to go out. So I bring them in at night and put them out. And so, but tomorrow they're going out once and for all. Everything's going out because I've had it.
Thing is, I've lived in my neighborhood now all my life, the same neighborhood down here. So we think differently.
Yeah, that's right.
Never, ever have
You're
we ever
in,
seen June frost.
Victoria Light, you could say.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to have to take a short break.
Lucky,
We've got, and speaking of Victoria, we've got Leslie from Victoria hanging on the phone there. We appreciate your call, Leslie, but we're going to have to take a short break. When we come back, we'll take your call when we come back with more of The Garden Show. Well, thank you for your patience, Leslie. You are now on the air joining The Garden Show this morning. Thanks for calling in.
I have a beefsteak tomato plant. Mm-hmm. It's been inside, and I want to put it in the garden. But we're expecting a lot of rain. Temperatures seem okay overnight. Mm-hmm. What would you advise?
Well, the rain's not going to hurt anything. It's...
No, the only thing I would say is you want, just like anything, when you're changing environments, you want to ease them into that situation. So whatever situation you have them in now is hopefully they have some sort of a stake or something that can help hold them up. But I would set them outside in the middle of the day sort of thing for maybe an hour and then bring them in. And then the next day put them out for like 2 hours and then bring them in. And then the third day put them out for maybe about 4 hours. And then bring them in. And then after this real big rain spell kind of goes through, then I would plant them out. So that, remember, we talk about tomato plants and about soil temperature. Yeah. That even though, the day temperatures are not bad, they... For optimum tomato production and for growing is a minimum of 16 degrees Celsius, which is quite warm. Like if you think about it, that would be at night, right? That's optimum. Let's say if you had a greenhouse operation and you were selling tomatoes, you set your night temperature at 16 and your day temperature at about maybe 70. What would you be say? What would that be in Celsius? About 78 degrees Fahrenheit.
About 23.
About 23, 24, 25 degrees.
20,
So those are optimum. Now, for us in the garden, we just do the best we can. We just don't want it to get too chilly. And like you say, it's pouring rain. Like we don't want to sit out in the rain sometimes, so the plants are sort of similar.
Right.
But, Leslie, you have to remember that, they don't have big commercial tomato farms on the island or down at the coast, like they do here in Kelowna, in the Okanagan, in Penticton, Osuyas. There's huge tomato production, and they do it because we have tomato weather here. But you can get your garden tomatoes going fine in Victoria and down at the coast. It's just that commercially they're not really viable. And so, you're going to have a little bit more trouble growing tomatoes than we do in the Okanagan. But, hey, you can get her done.
Can I put a little bit of Epsom salt down in the bottom of where I'm planting it?
Just very little. It is beneficial to have a small amount, just not too much, right? It is still a salt. It can burn the roots a little bit. You're best to sort of dig it in sort of underneath a little bit. Or what I do sometimes, I'll plant the plant in, and then I'll just take a few little granules and sprinkle them around on the surface, and then that allows it to sort of dilute in the rain or moisture and slowly work its way in.
Okay, I thank you for your help.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, good luck with that.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Leslie. It's interesting because last year we didn't see a drop of rain right through May and June. It was just so dry. I was very concerned.
Very, very little in April last year,
yeah,
too.
It was really dry. Now, not saying that this amount of rain here, especially in the Okanagan, is going to fill up the reservoirs or anything like that. But it has an effect of keeping the forest a little bit on the dry side or on the moist side, which is good. However, we do have dry weather coming up, and we still have to be aware of that. 250-862-2525 to get through to us here in the Okanagan, in Kelowna, and 1-888-780-4273 if you're calling in from Victoria or anywhere else online. Give us a shout. Well, Ken, I finally bit the bullet, and I have exhumed my kiwi.
Oh, yeah, I did. I saw you sent me a picture.
I exhumed it.
Yes,
and, interesting how you know, to dig a plant out that size, a big root. This kiwi's been in there for, 20 years. Well, not quite 20 years, but close.
Yeah.
And
it's the trunk size was
the trunk 6 inches in diameter. Big trunk.
Amazing,
and same with the rose bush. My climbing rose called Nice Day. Well, it's had its last nice day because it really got damaged in the winter, and it was really scruffy and old and tired. And I thought, you know what, let's get rid of that. I put a nice big castor bean plant there, which is going to be very pretty.
Yeah, they're beautiful plants.
Yeah. And so anyway, pulling this rose out, you got to find a good anchor. Like I used the base of a chain link fence post, right? And you do it at the base, not up high, because you got that lever, you're going to bend it.
Yeah.
But if you get it right down close to the base, the anchor, and you got a really good come along. I got a come along, like we used to use on the soil cookers.
Yeah.
And I got one of those at a garage sale, a real high end one, a really good one.
Nice.
And so I pulled a few things out with that. And so you chain it up, you cable it up around the base of the rose, and then you put some tension on it, like really get it pulled. Now when you go in with a shovel, the roots just cut so easy because they got that tension going on there. So then you pull a little bit more, pull a little more, chop, and before you know it, you've got this big stump out, and you think you're not Tom Sawyer, but
one of those guys.
One of those guys is the legendary lumberjack that created the Great Lakes. I forget his name now. Yeah. Anyway, so it was really good. Got that out of there, and I got a nice new kiwi vine from Sal Caruso, and my good buddy.
Is this a different variety now, or same? It's an Arguta?
Interesting. He had this nice big. It's an Arguta, but he had this nice big vine there that I liked, and I traded him for some Belamonte tomatoes. And anyway, he gave me this big vine, and I've trimmed it down to 2 liters to come up, and he has no idea what it is. It's an Arguta for sure, but he doesn't know whether it's a male, female, Anna, or all the different varieties.
You had 4 plants.
3.
I
had 1 male and 2 females.
Okay, right. So the females produce fruit, the males will pollinate.
Yeah.
And which one died? Was it one?
One of the females.
One of the females. So that's good. You still have the male and the female.
The male there,
You're good to go either way.
Well, one of the things you can do if you don't have a pollinator for your kiwi. If the male died, I would go over to Sal's place when his males were in bloom. I'd cut some of the vines off, put them in a cup of water. Yeah, the flowers with the vines with some flowers on them. Put them in a bucket of water and hang it in my kiwi area, and the rest the bees will do.
Yep. The bees will take care of business. Yeah.
It's amazing how the difference can. I really want you to come by and do a little video for your site on the difference between the two, the male and the female. The
Are
parts.
They blooming right now?
Not quite.
Not
They're
quite.
very
Next
close.
weekend, maybe,
very close. Next weekend they'll be blooming.
Okay.
And you can get a close up of the difference in the 2 blooms. The male and the female are distinctively different.
Yeah.
And so there you go.
Yep, as with a lot of those flowers, the male flowers are different than the female flowers.
Very different.
And with the kiwis, that's the thing, is you need a male and a female. Typically, they do have these varieties that seem to produce
acai is one.
Produces both the male and female flowers. I'd like to have a look at those ones when they're in full bloom to see what the difference is too, just to see if they are both on the same flower or if they're producing distinctive male and female flowers.
I think Sal's got an acai that he put in. It's got that 2-tone leaf.
That's Kolomitka, isn't it?
Kolomitka, yeah.
Yeah,
Kolomitka. But the name, the variety is acai.
Oh, okay.
Kolomitka, and then there's Arguta, and then there's Deliciosa.
Which is
the fuzzy kiwi.
The fuzzy one, yeah.
So when people in Victoria, if they hear us chatting about kiwis, in the Okanagan, we can't grow the fuzzy kiwi, the Deliciosa.
I saw a big one at a property, but it kept dying back every time they had a bad winter. It would die back to a stump, but it grew back to be massive.
Yeah, my cousin Ross has one. It's very similar in hardiness to your figs, your Turkish figs.
Right.
My
Victoria, they could be growing that.
Yeah, I thought my fig was dead to the ground but it's coming up at the base. So here we go. Here we go again.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, it is a challenge in the Okanagan for some of these things. We got that 1 or 2 or 3 weeks of weather in the wintertime that takes us apart, takes us out of that zone where we can grow some of these things. I've lost half my Magnolia grandiflora. Mm-hmm. Half of it is dead. So I got to do some lumberjacking there.
Yeah.
My laurel, of course, died, but there's some shoots coming up at the base, and I'm going to be bringing that back to life. Well, I hope folks don't think we're talking negative all the time, but it is a fact. We've lost a lot of stuff in the Okanagan in particular, and even down the coast, they've lost some things.
And the weird effect that I've noticed is just exactly what happened to you. You've got 3 kiwis side by side, and one of them died. And they're all basically genetically the same, other than they're males and females. But that's what's happened this time around, this last winter, is you'll have like 3 or 4 trees in a row and one will die. And it must be some sort of a weakness in that plant, like something's not right with that plant, and then when that cold snap hits, those plants just can't seem to survive it, and they just perish, whereas the one right beside it, which is exactly the same, is fine. Yeah. So there's got to be some underlying issues,
Ken,
right?
You really hit something there, because with this kiwi, the 3 kiwis, okay, the one that died, I could move it a little bit in the ground when I moved it. The other ones are solid as a rock, okay? So when I did take it out, I did a little bit of a post-mortem, and there was a lot of dead root.
Oh, so it had a bit of root
I'm thinking
disease.
whether there was some disease in the root there for some reason. And there was a real constriction, because in the stem, there was quite a narrowing of the stem as it went up. Now, the other thing is that the top that didn't leaf out was as green. You do the scratch test, and it was fine. But as there was no juices getting past this restriction. So something was going on more so than the frost. The frost did not really have
frost sometimes just is the final blow,
straw that breaks the camel's back.
Exactly.
On that note, we are going to take this short break. We have to do that at this point in time. We've got Dan Bruce waiting for us to give us his little bit of knowledge today, and we'll do that when we come back with the Garden Show after this short break. Well, we've got Dan Bruce joining us, and I have something to say to Dan when you get him on the air here. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning.
It's
raining, and I'm loving it.
I know, it's beautiful. Now, look I just want to tell you, my jacaranda is in full leaf now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Came back from near
death. It had a near-death experience.
Oh, well, I'm really pleased, glad, because
me too.
It's a unique thing. What did you do? Leave it out too long?
Well, no, I put it out. I had it in the shop because I had to get it out of the greenhouse. Spring is bad for me because I got so much stuff in the greenhouse, and I got to propagate, so I need the room. So the jacaranda went out and into the shop. Well, then I got busy in the shop, and it was in the way there, so I stuck it outside. And it promptly froze that night. And so all the little leaves that were on it froze solid. They were done. And I thought, oh, boy, here we go. So I put it back in the shop, of course. And sure enough, after a week or 10 days in the shop, little leaves started pushing again. It will take frost. It takes a little bit of frost. It doesn't like it. It loses its leaves, but it doesn't burn the cambium, and the tree is fine.
Well, you're lucky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it grows in Australia, in areas of Australia that do receive a tiny little bit of frost. Joe Wilkinson has a huge jacaranda in his yard, and he does experience, where he lives in Australia, he does experience some frost. Not heavy, deep frost like we get, but frost. So there you go. Anyway, that was that. What have you got on your mind today, Dan?
My mind is completely vacant.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. We've got another caller coming in. So
I am getting another little batch of roses brought up from Victoria.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, there you go.
Among them is a variety called Horatio Nelson.
Okay.
It's kind of neat how you get little bits of history creeping into one's world.
Yes.
Because, as you all know, Horatio Nelson was the captain, admiral of the British fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar.
Right.
Was killed aboard the Victory, and he is commemorated in London by a monument in the middle of Trafalgar Square. I'm acquiring this rose, Horatio Nelson, from somebody in Victoria who is Nelson's great-great-great-grandnephew.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Really?
That's pretty cool.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yes, I want it to come with a guarantee of good health and growth.
Who produced this rose? What's its chronology?
I don't know the producer, the breeder, but it's been around for a few years.
What type of rose is it?
Shrub.
Shrub rose. Okay.
Good repeat flowering, scented, good quality rose. Anyway, it's coming from Robin Denning in Victoria, who used to operate Brentwood Bay Nursery.
Okay.
Great.
So, I mean, it comes from an extremely reputable source.
Right on. So it should be labeled properly.
Oh, yes, and also on its own roots, which is an important issue.
Yeah, it is, especially with the last few winters.
So the other thing is that with the dexterous use of a large wrench that belonged to my father and a length of nylon cord, I managed to get rid of a squirrel nest in the garden.
Oh.
And I'm always delighted to get rid of anything to do with squirrels.
They can be a pain.
Yeah, they are becoming more and more. I mean, when I was a kid, there was no squirrels in the Okanagan.
Well, not the gray squirrels.
Well, in the yards. Yeah. I mean, we didn't see squirrels around. We didn't see
there
rats.
were very few of those.
No rats.
Little Douglas squirrels here. But now we've been invaded by, tree rats. We used to have bird nest boxes up all over the garden here years ago. Yep. But the squirrels moved in and they just put their dirty little paws into the nest boxes, hauled the eggs or the babies out, ate them, and trashed the rest.
Jeez. Wow. Yeah, I know. That's a terrible story. But I guess it's reality. It's part of life. Look at Dan, we got to run here because we've got another caller coming in. It's very important to us to take our calls, but we always appreciate having a chat with you every Saturday morning. And we're hopefully you can.
I'm coming by on a jacaranda health check.
Oh, please do. I want you to have a look at a lot of things that are blooming, including, and I'm going to talk about this after the break, including my Queen Elizabeth rose that was purchased by Ruby Meyering from my grandfather in 1952, the year that he was killed in a car accident. So it's a cool rose to see. Anyway, I'd like you to see it. Anyway, Dan, thanks for the call, and we will check in next week with you.
We will.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
Right. Thanks, Dan. Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And what we have going on here is another caller, and it's Sue from Victoria. Sue, welcome to the show. Thanks for your patience.
Hi, guys. I'm really glad to ask you. I was wondering if I can ask two questions.
Sure.
Okay. So my first one is you guys inspired me to ask this one when you're talking about kiwis. And I have a Jenny Fuzzy kiwi vine that the card says that it is self-pollinating. And I wanted to ask you about that. Is that an okay one, or should I get others?
Well, that's one of the Deliciosa varieties. I'm not sure which variety it is, but it's Actinidia deliciosa, the fuzzy kiwi. I'm not sure. Some of them perhaps are such that they will produce without a male. And if it said that on the tag, more than likely it's correct that it will produce without a male. Does it show flowers? Does it give you flowers?
Well, they're closed right now. It looks like there's going to be flowers, and I've been looking up the difference between the male and female flower, and I'm really wanting to see what they look like when they do open. They're just sitting there tight closed. Yeah,
well, the male has very little in the way of a pistil. It's receded. The male has lots of stamen and anthers coming up, dark with their pollen and everything on them. And then the female has very few, very receded anthers and stamen, and its pistil is very fat and big, and it's got the center flower thing on that pistil. So it's very distinctively different. If they open up and you take a very close-up picture and email it to me, I can maybe help you discern whether you've got a male or female. Now, if it's a plant that doesn't need a pollinator, which it said on the tag, then possibly it's got a unique flower with both the male and the female parts.
Oh, well, that'll be fascinating to look at.
Yeah.
So here's my burning question. So I'm in Victoria. I have my very favorite fruit, nectarines. I have nectarine trees out on various parts of the property here. I have 2 of them planted a while ago that do not get the mold on the fruit. I mean, all of them are getting it where it's sneaking out from under cover. The leaves are curling up, and that's fine. I can live with that. But the 2 that are against the garage that are fairly open, more open and not as covered as the others underneath a roof, those ones do not have the mold on the fruit. But the ones down underneath more of a cover, even though there's airflow through there, they have a lot of mold, and I think last year one of them did, and I lost all the fruit on that one. So I wondered if it's something, do I need to put a fan down below?
It's not, I don't think that's so much the issue as it is it may be varietal. Do you think they're all the exact same varieties, or do you think one is a slightly different variety?
No, I got a Harco is one of them.
Yeah.
And I'll have to look up to see. And the other one is a hardy red.
Okay, so what happens is it's often a varietal issue more than it is, even though most diseases, all diseases come around about because of environmental conditions. But with that being said, one variety to the next, they have breeding in the background that help to prevent diseases. So each variety has its own unique susceptibility to diseases. So in your case, the ones that are under the covered area, which you'd think that would actually be better for some of the disease issues because the fruit might stay a bit drier. But unfortunately, the humidity is still a factor. Have you tried doing the fall sprays to prevent disease organisms from overwintering?
I haven't got into that yet, but as to your sort of reasoning, it's interesting that the 2 side by side that are doing well, one is a Harco and the other one is a hardy red. And then down below, I have a mixture of them as well, and they've all got the mold.
Okay, so then that was what my question was whether there was a similar variety in one location compared to the other. But there's also things that affect that is sometimes growing conditions, drought at the root. Sometimes over the wintertime, the root dries out if it's under a covered area. And it's not usually a big problem, but it can stress the plants a little bit. But again, like here in the Okanagan, even though it's a very dry climate, if we don't do our fall applications of, usually we use a copper spray or one of the recommended fall application sprays for soft fruits, that if we don't do that, we're going to probably run into brown rot, and we're going to run into crinium blight, and we're going to run into all kinds of issues. So and here in the valley, even though it's way drier than you are, we still have tons of problems. Yeah. So I would just say that if that's something you can integrate into maybe next year, is to try some of the fall applications. And I know it's difficult under a covered area against the house and all that kind of thing, but I would just look at that as a preventative thing, and also inspect the soil from time to time so that the roots are not getting like completely bone dry over the winter.
We're going to have to move on here, but Sue, we appreciate your call, and if you have any other issues, just give us a shout. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank
I
you.
love you guys.
Oh, thank you, dear. We appreciate that.
Appreciate that.
It does my heart good.
Yeah.
We've got Deborah waiting to get on from Penticton. We're enjoying broadcasting into Penticton now, and Deborah's phoning in from Penticton. But we've got to take a short break, Deborah, and we'll be back with your call after this short break. Well, here we are back with you, and on a kind of a rainy, overcast day. How's it doing in Penticton, Deborah?
It's spitting. It's not really raining, but it's spitting, and it's pretty overcast.
That's a good way to put it. It's spitting. That's good.
That's about it.
What can we do for you today?
I have a friend who bought blueberry bushes about 2 or 3 years ago, and he bought 2 of them because they said they had to pollinate each other. So the little one is doing really well, and it's got flowers and everything. The big one is doing nothing.
Yep, that's pretty typical, yep.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and the reason is that the shorter varieties and what they call low bush types are more tolerant of our alkaline soil conditions here in the Okanagan. So they do much better here. The tall varieties, the high bush blueberries, are not very tolerant of our alkaline conditions here, so they don't do very well. There's one that does, is one called blue crop, and we sort of have this standard saying in the Okanagan for blueberries is you buy a bunch of blue crops, and then you buy a bunch of low bush ones to put nearby for extra pollination, and they all produce, and they all grow, and they all survive. But there are literally hundreds of varieties of blueberries that are high bush that you'll see get shipped into the Okanagan every year, and even though they're they're fabulous big fat berries, they just slowly die out in our growing conditions. And I did a test that was about, I guess, 8 years ago, where I grew 16 different varieties of blueberries in a patch, and then I dug in a whole bunch of peat moss into that area before I planted, and then I put sulfur in to help acidify the soil, and then I was careful with my watering and everything, and they just gradually died over 2 or 3 years. But all the low bush ones survived, and the one blue crop I had survived. So again, it was just kind of reiterating that. That's what the theory was, and I think it's proven now. Whereas if you're in Victoria or other areas, they all do well in acid soil conditions.
My buddy Robert Daniel has a large blueberry farm up in Gallagher's, and
Kelowna area.
Yeah, and it's in the Kelowna area, and he applies sulfur every year, but predominantly his crop is blue crop. And he said that's the one that does very well for him. So blue crop, if you're in the Okanagan, for a high bush blueberry, blue crop is your choice. Down at the coast, you can go Jersey, Rancocas, all the different other high bush blueberries that are popular down there. And so hopefully that helps.
This is the 3rd year, and there's no fruit so far.
Yeah, and this winter, too, for us being very cold, is that a lot of the buds that produce the flowers on the blueberries are overwintered on the plant, and then they open in June usually. But if the wood is damaged or frost injured, which it is this year, that you may or may not get much fruit. We'll have to check in.
I'm going to chat with my local guys here that grow blueberries and see what their crops are like after this winter. I haven't thought of blueberries. Certainly, the vines, the grapevines are, well, not the
Soft
Labrusca
fruits
type, but the vinifera European grapevines are really in trouble this year.
Yeah. My raspberries are doing awesome, but the blueberries are not.
Well, raspberries, they'll do well in the prairies, Deborah.
They'll survive anyway.
So nice to hear from you, Deborah, from Penticton. I think you're one of our first callers from Penticton. We appreciate the fact that we're broadcasting in there now, and Scott Austin's a great friend of ours, and once in a while he's going to come on the show just to reminisce. Yeah.
Thanks for all the info.
Thank you, dear. Okay,
thanks for calling. Bye-bye.
You betcha. So I need to have my sign, Ken.
Yep.
It's so funny. After all these years, I still need my sign that tells me what time we have to break, what time we do this, and what time we do that. It's just the way it is. The old boy here has to have his sign.
You need a schedule.
Yeah, there we go.
And a phone number.
Okay, so we got a few minutes. We got about 4 minutes before we have to break here.
Yep.
Hey, coming to the station this morning, I just realized it's rose season. The roses are coming on.
They are looking great,
coming on.
too, yeah. It's weird that they are, but they are looking really great. Some are stone dead, ones that were not protected for the winter.
I'm looking at landscape roses, the Meadowlands.
Yeah, they're looking all good. They don't really suffer in the cold, but the tea roses and the floribundas are sometimes damaged, and, always damaged if they're not protected here in the valley. I think their winter hardiness is somewhere around minus 15 or so. Yeah. So we just, in the Okanagan, we bury them with mulch up about 14 to 18 inches deep, bury the whole plant if we can at the base each fall, late fall, like into early November. And that just gives them that protection over the winter months, and it protects that wood so that at least you get some wood that comes back each year. And so even if it does get a snap like we had, they still, you've got really good odds of it coming back and staying, not going wild. Because, that's what they say, when the top freezes off down to the graft where they're grafted, it's the roots that shoot up, and they are kind of useless. They're like a big rambling rose that has these little double red flowers on them. It's not a really great plant.
Well, no, that's that standard rootstock that they use on these grafted roses. In my situation, I haven't lost any roses. I thought I had, but they've come back. All my special roses I got from Helen are doing well. My Just Joey, my only hybrid tea, Just Joey, is doing very well. I did cover him, and then my favorite rose in the garden, not because it's necessarily my favorite rose, but because of its history, is my Queen Elizabeth, and she is doing very well.
Yeah. She's grandiflora.
She's a grandiflora, and she was the original grandiflora, the very first grandiflora.
Right.
Rose it was a cross between a hybrid tea and a floribunda, and they called it a grandiflora because it's large flowers, clusters of large flowers, whereas the hybrid tea is mostly one large flower at the end of a stem.
Right.
And it's a beautiful thing. But the history, of course, is that 2002, our good friend and customer for many, many years, Ruby Meyering, called me up when I was working with Bylands, and she said, "Don, I want you to have a rose. I'm moving out of my house. I want you to have this rose. I bought it from your grandfather in 1952, spring of 1952." And he says, "It's a brand new rose, just freshly put out on the market here, and that is named after the new queen." And it's called Queen Elizabeth, and it's the very first grandiflora. It was a special rose and all that. So she bought that rose from my grandfather. My grandfather was subsequently killed in a car accident in December of that year. So this is how special that rose is to me. And I've told my kids, that is a special rose. When I'm gone, that rose has to go in somebody's garden. Anyway, we're getting close to the end of the period here. We appreciate your calls.
First half of the show.
First half of the show. We do invite your calls when we come back. 250-862-2525 if you're in the Okanagan. If you're in the on the internet or in Victoria or anywhere, give us a call, 1-888-780-4273. We are now going to take the break for the middle of the show, and we will be back with the Garden Show after this short break. Well, if you notice, Ken, I'm wearing my jeans today, my long pants. It's been off again, on again for, 3 weeks ago? It was like summer weather, and I had my shorts and short sleeve shirts on and whatnot. And
it was
I thought that was
degrees.
Yeah,
if you remember,
I thought that was it. I thought, here we are, and Anyway, so it's off and on. I remember back in the day when we had the garden center, and people would come to work and they'd have to bring their whole wardrobe because the lunchroom lockers were just stashed full of clothes because they bring warm clothes, shorts, long pants, everything they could change as the weather changed. This year it's been delayed. I've now got my long pants on again. But I think what do you say? But after next week, it's going to warm up?
Yeah, and by next weekend, we're supposed to, in theory, like how accurate the forecast is, I don't know, but they're saying here in the Okanagan, possibly 32 degrees next Saturday.
Ooh.
That's a big change.
That's big time.
When
when you're in the 30s, it's warm.
Yeah, you're right in there. So again, actually, I'm just going to be releasing another video today on YouTube about moving plants out. So I did a little experiment this year, and I took, because I have a lot of these Dracaena marginatus.
Oh yes,
the just like your regular dragon tree,
Madagascar dragon tree.
Yeah. So, but they're a common house plant, and so I have about 6 of them or something. So I had 2 that it was like they were really dry, so I thought, well, I'm going to stick them outside. So I took them out, and I have a plunge bucket, so I plunged them in there to get the root wet. And then I took one and I put it in the shade, and I took the other one and I put it in the direct sun. And I just said, let's just see what the difference is, And then the one in the shade, I was, I'm still in the process of integrating it into the light, because it does take about 3 weeks for these plants to acclimatize to the bright light. And so, in other words, I'm acclimatizing one of them, and the other one I'm just saying, here you go, you're in the sun. And I got really interesting results, which is pretty fascinating. And it is, I'm going to be releasing that video today, and it is... it's going to be, it's in the YouTube Shorts. So Grower Coach at YouTube, and then on Grower Coach you can click on the Shorts, which are all these little 1 minute long videos.
No, right on.
Yeah, and it's kind of a fun thing to look at, but it's striking what happens to a plant when it goes straight out into the sun. So be careful.
I have a sheet on acclimatization of your plants, and getting them used to being outside. We often think of that as being getting used to the cold, bringing your plants out in just to get them used to being out in the cold. But you're right, Ken. That's probably even more of an issue is plunging them out into the hot sun. Geraniums will turn white. Petunias will turn white. From putting them right directly out in the sun.
And plants that have big, heavy-duty, leathery leaves will develop a big spot on the leaf, a big white spot, like a rubber tree or something like that would have a big white spot on it. A tomato, or a pepper gets a big white spot on one side, where it's exposed to the sun. And it's a sad sort of thing, but it's amazing. Plants have to adapt, and it's a chemical. There's two things that they do to survive sunburn is that they have to develop a thicker cuticle on the top of the leaf, but it's also a chemical that's produced in the juice of the plant that acts like an internal sunscreen, and it builds up as the sun becomes more intense, but it's gradual over about 3 to 4 weeks. So you have to start them in shade, and then give them a little dappled sun, and then give them a little shot in the full sun, but not for too long. Pull them back, give them 15 minutes, and then keep, you got to do this gradually, or else they will just fry. And
we're talking about plants that you're growing in the home, in your house, in your kitchen, and whatnot. And, even plants that I grow in the greenhouse. It's amazing, you grow a plant in the greenhouse, and you think, well, it's in full sun. It's not really. The glass reflects a lot of that burning part of the sun. And so if you can put a plant from the greenhouse right out into the hot sun, and it can burn, especially geraniums, especially petunias, those things. Even plants that really love full sun will burn. It's like, buying drought-tolerant plants and planting them in the garden and just not watering them. Can think, well, they're drought-tolerant. No, you got to get them used to being out there.
Oh, yeah, and the other factor is just air movement. Yeah. Like plants that are growing in the house, they're not used to the air moving. No, when you put them outside and the wind's blowing and it's raining or whatever, it's pretty hard on them. They go through a rapid learning curve when you first put them out. So, if it's at all possible, you put them out for an hour and bring them in and put them out for a bit at a time, and they kind of get used to that.
And something interesting, talking about the transition from the greenhouse and out and growing stuff inside and stuff. I planted my annual sunflower in its spot by the back window there, and it's in almost, it doesn't get full sun, but it's sunny. It's a sunny spot. And I grew that thing. I think I put the seed in March, late March, and I grew it in the greenhouse. And then I put the plant out a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed that there was a little seedling coming up from last year, a volunteer from last year's sunflower.
Right.
Do you know that little seedling now has caught up to the one that I put out there that I grew in the greenhouse?
Wow.
That's fascinating to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, I'll tell you, gardening is so much fun. 250-862-2525 to get through to us if you're in the Okanagan or in the Kelowna area. 1-888-780-4273 if you're calling in from out of town, out of Kelowna, from Victoria area. Give us a shout. We will gladly answer your call. We love to talk to you. Flower Power Garden Tour, Saturday, June 15th. So it's only, getting 2 weeks away now, the Flower Power Garden Tour, which is exciting. You got to go online to get your ticket. I think it's Eventbrite. I think it's Eventbrite that they're using to get the tickets to the garden tour. One beautiful way. It's a beautiful way to get ideas for your garden is go on the garden tour.
Yeah, and just to get some beautiful shots. It just happens that, a lot of people, they're putting a lot of care and effort into making these gardens shine. And, man, bring your camera. It's so awesome. And the one thing that I find, you get gardening and then you get gardening plus, and that just means gardening at a little bit higher level. And so what I look for is plants that bloom at the same time. And that's what you find when you go to all these different gardens. You're going to experience pretty much all the things that are blooming right at this time on that particular day. And so you can, when you go garden to garden to garden, you're getting a lot of different plants that are in bloom. And that's how you learn about combining plants. So you get to see all these different plants and you go like, oh yeah, I remember that was blooming at so-and-so's house. It was a nice white flower. And then, oh, this bright yellow flower is blooming. I love yellow and white together. Hey, so I'm going to take my pictures now that I see what has been blooming, and I'm going to go buy those plants and put them together in my garden so that you get that combination. So combining plants is sort of a one step up when it comes to garden design and gardening.
Great idea, Ken. That's, again, getting ideas from the garden tour, and that's one of the things.
Yeah.
Now, the 27th annual flower show, the Kelowna Garden Club flower show, and it's their 100th anniversary this year.
Yeah.
100 years of growing. It's at the Gushikan Heritage Garden, 1060 Cameron Avenue, Kelowna. And it is on the 29th of June coming up, and there's no entry fees for exhibitors, free admission to the garden and the flower show. Display of over 150 entries in horticulture, flower arrangements, potted plants, and children's categories, which is kind of nice. Speakers, demonstrations, and workshops throughout the day. This is a great event. And master gardeners available to answer gardening questions, floral art displays, and art and craft vendors, and a walk and talk with me, Don Burnett. I grew up in the area. That was my neighborhood, and so I can give a little insight on the property. This is a preserved piece of property that was there beginning in 1895 when the Lord and Lady Aberdeen built the Gushikan House. And it was probably the only building in that neck of the woods. It was really,
it was out in the middle of a big pasture area, wasn't it? Yeah.
We've got a picture of 350-acre ranch, really is what it was. Anyway,
it was
that's
cattle, right? Is that what it was?
It was, cattle and sheep. They had Patty Cameron had cattle, and Alistair Cameron had sheep.
Oh, there you go.
And they were brothers. And Alistair Cameron was, the log house on Richter Street. If you're heading south on Richter, it's on the left-hand side. There's Cameron Park. There's a log house there. That was Patty Cameron's house. And Alistair Cameron lived in the Gushikan house.
Cool, eh?
Yeah. So this is very historical, and we have every garden show we have. I often refer to Elaine Cameron's diary, which I have a copy of, and I've got the June 1954 diary page here, and I will actually chat a little bit about that because there's a couple of interesting things there. But we're going to have to take this short break. We do invite your calls, 250-862-2525. 1-888-780-4273 if you're calling from Victoria or anywhere out of town. We will be back with the Garden Show after this short break. Well, we are back with you on the Garden Show. You know, it is a beautiful day today, even though it is raining a little bit, drizzling, and it's overhead cloudy. But it's very good for the gardens, and it's good for the forests. We really last year we went May and June and July. It was no rain whatsoever. It was just so hot.
Yeah, it was actually April, May, June, July, August, September, and it wasn't until about, I think, into October when we got our first rainfall.
Yeah, we call that a drought, Ken.
Oh,
that's a drought.
That's major.
Yeah, major drought.
Brutal.
Yeah, so we have joining us is Keith from Kelowna. Hello, Keith. How are you today?
Oh, pretty good. How you fellas doing?
Excellent.
Yeah, doing all right, thanks.
I just got a couple of questions here. I tried to grow some Brussels sprouts.
I'm sorry for laughing.
Well, yeah, I kind of laughed too.
I've tried for years, Keith. Anyway, go ahead.
They really grew well.
Yeah.
And I had lots of sprouts on them.
Yep.
But the bugs got
I know, aphids. I know.
And I sprayed and I couldn't get rid of the things.
No, you have to grow them under insect screen. And so you can buy the insect screen. It's a super fine white fabric. Yeah. And you plant them in a spot where you haven't had any, none of the brassicas, none of the cabbage family prior. So, in other words, wherever you had them last year, your cabbages or any of those things, kohlrabies, you want to have a fresh bed that didn't have the cabbages in them last year, and then plant in your Brussels sprouts. And you don't have to plant them super early because they're a late crop. So you can plant them right now, it would be fine. But build yourself a little tent over it with that insect screen. And high enough to support those plants. And then you can fill the thing with plants and let her rip.
Because they really grew well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, they're fabulous plants. Just the same problem that everybody has is the aphids, particularly.
It's a gray aphid.
And it's also the little caterpillars. So you can keep all those off and then keep your leaves off the ground because you still get earwigs and sow bugs and stuff that come in. And I use that diatomaceous earth. It's like a powder, and you just put it around the base of each plant. I almost start that right when I plant them. As I'm planting, I'll give a little bit of dust around the base of them, and then I'll put my insect screen on, and they live in that insect screen, no holes, covered for their entire life, And by the time you get into September,
aphid season's over too. So by that time,
you can open them up in the fall if you want, but they're awesome, way better.
Oh, well, thanks, Ken. Yeah, that I might give that a shot because I'm tired of buying spray.
Oh yeah. Who wants to do that? And then you can't keep up with those little devils.
The other thing I've got, it's not exactly a question, but I grew up at the coast, and then I've lived up here since I was about 20. But we had ferns at the coast, and anybody knows how big those ferns get down there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I've grown a couple here, and they've grown well, and they also flower.
Interesting.
Does that make sense?
Well, there's so many different varieties of fern out there and species.
They all produce the spores, so that's where the plant comes up and they'll send up this big bunch of fronds that are specialized for producing spores, and they're all brown in color and really dusty, and they come up in the middle and do their thing and spread their spores. And it's a normal procedure, but I think that because our summers are so hot and dry here, it's kind of not always good fern weather. So when they hit that stress of summer, the stress encourages plants to ripen and become sort of more fruiting. So that means
they really like the shade, down the coast.
I think they think they're dying, and they're going I got to reproduce.
Yeah, but Keith, send me a picture of that bloom when it comes. I'm not sure because ferns just in general don't bloom. But
I know I've never seen them bloom.
Send me a picture. I'd like to see that. Yeah.
They just send up big shoots, and then they got little flowers at the top.
Weird. That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah, something wrong with there. It could be a varietal thing, like the The royal fern is like that. It produces little tiny bunches of leaves up on the upper stems. So, send us some pictures.
Could be a plant that's inside the fern that's growing. I don't know. It's hard to say. But, Keith, I'd like to see a picture of that when you get one.
Okay.
Okay, bud.
All right. Thanks, Ken. Thanks, Don.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Yep.
I wonder if it is a fern. Maybe it's like an asparagus or something. There, the plant that it looks like a fern and has little flowers. I don't know.
I'll get a picture. Pam has joined us. Good morning, Pam.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I wanted to put a shout out for people who are trying to grow blueberries in the Okanagan and are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having a good time, carry on. But if you're struggling, just want to plant an idea. There is a different kind of a plant called a haskap berry that right now I have 2 in my front yard, and the berries are ripe and ready to pick. Like they're
Super
producing
early.
berry. They're the same color as blueberries, a little bit more of an elliptical shape, a little bit different shape than a blueberry. But anything you can do with a blueberry, you can do with a haskap berry with, I think, reasonable interchange. They don't taste exactly the same, but they are in that same family of dessert berries, fresh to eat, jam, pies, whatever. And they do not mind the cold, and they do not mind our soil. So that's just put it out there. Like, maybe don't fight what isn't liking it here.
True.
Go for what does like it. Life's too short to fight, especially with your plants.
Exactly.
I've heard those hascaps are very high in antioxidants as well, and full of vitamin C and all kinds of good nutrients.
Now, our mutual friend Reg Tamai is very involved with haskap production in the Okanagan. We should get Reg on sometime.
We should,
and it'd be kind of nostalgic to have Reg on because he used to do a garden show. Back in the 70s, he actually was on the air at one of the radio stations with a garden show, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to phone up Reg and see if he can come on and talk about haskap berries. Yeah, Pam, great information.
It's a good one. And there is a vendor that's often at our local farmers market who sells haskap products commercially. He's very friendly, and his products are wonderful. So if you want to skip the growing and just go for the buying, you can probably buy from him. But he could probably fill you in as well. Hey, real quick question too, dahlias. Are you supposed to pinch them to encourage more stems at any point, or do you just let them continue to grow from the tuber, the shape that they're growing?
Well, anything that you pinch, you take off, it's going to make it branch out at the base and become fuller. So, I don't see a problem with giving them a pinch. Mine are a little bit tall, and I might just do that myself. Cut them in half. Like they're about 1.5 feet tall now, and they're kind of spindly. So maybe just cutting them back in half, and it'll delay some of the bloom, but it will definitely bush them out.
It always scares me to chop a plant in half. It sounds counterproductive, but I know there's a place for it. I just lack the confidence to wield my shears. I know how to hack things I don't want, but I don't like to cut things that I'm trying to grow.
I've got a plant that I got from my good friend Dwayne Amundrud up in Golden, and he gave me this one plant. It's an African tree, and it has a bulbous base on it. But it's got really, really tall. It's 3 feet tall now. But there's lots of buds but latent buds down below. And I'm so tempted to cut that darn thing in half to produce make a shorter plant because it's getting so tall. I think it's going to grow itself out of my greenhouse. But I'm just so hesitant, Pam. It's the same thing. You got the shears out and you go, should I or should I not? Because once you do, it's done. You can't glue it back on.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for taking my call. Have a great day.
Okay, dear. Take care.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye-bye. Okay, I talked about Elaine Cameron's diary, June of 1954. Started out June 1st, cleaned and weeded the rockery base and began the raspberries. Began rasps. I don't know what that would be about. Raspberries aren't producing yet, are they? No.
Oh, well, they got little berries coming on them.
What she might be doing here, began the raspberries, might have began to
tie them up,
train them. Because they're not ready. June 1st, they wouldn't be ready. Cut the sunken lawn. Now, when I do my little tour of the gardens, we do end up the tour at the sunken lawn that she refers to all the time here, the sunken lawn where she has her water pond and everything like that.
Yep.
Anyway, it goes on and on and on. And on June 15th, got begonias and greenhouse chrysanthemums from Burnett's and planted. Mm-hmm. And then it went on again. June 22nd, got 8 geraniums from Ernie Burnett and planted in the front of the lily bed. 1954, Ken.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's your dad.
That's my dad out there selling geraniums in 1954.
Isn't that something, eh?
Yeah. And I know Dad and I were cutting grapes in the backyard one time, in my backyard, making grape cuttings. And I said, Dad, I don't know why I do this. I don't have to do this. And he says, it's in your blood. So there you go. It's in my blood.
Yep.
We're down at the bottom of the hour here. We're going to take a short break. We do invite your calls. We love to hear from you folks. Even though it may not be a question, it may be something to do. And I want to tell you that Jack gave me some bean seeds, and I grew them, and 2 of them germinated. The others rotted, but that's okay. Jack, I'm not looking for a replacement. I'm good. And they're outside now, and they're looking good. And I'm calling them Jack and the Beanstalk. Anyway, we're gonna take a short break. We'll be back with the Garden Show after this short break. Well, warm weather's coming up, but also what's going to happen is at the end of the day, when you're just kind of finishing up the day and whatnot, and the waft of barbecues coming down the street.
Kind of makes you hungry, eh?
Oh, man, it's amazing the aromas that come through the neighborhood at this time of year when the barbecues start going. We don't barbecue as much as a lot of people do. Once in a while, we do have a barbecue, but we don't do a lot of barbecuing. But lots of people do. It's a big deal. You go into Rona and all the different places there, and the barbecue section is huge. It's a very popular thing to barbecue. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, it just gets I think particularly when the weather gets hot, it heats up your house to cook in the house. Mm-hmm. So you'd probably want to move that outdoors just to keep the heat out of the house. But either way, it's kind of fun to flame broil stuff. I don't think it's always the healthiest choice, but hey, sure tastes good.
I guess, and the thing is, the fact of heating up in the house nowadays is not nearly what it was. I do remember, I'm old enough, Ken, to remember my grandma and grandpa Burnett in their home had a wood cook stove in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And it eventually got taken out and an electric stove put in. But I remember it being there, and I remember how hot it would get in the kitchen in the summer, cooking a meal. When you got your wood stove going on in the summer. So they'd open the windows and let the air flow through, but it was something else.
Yeah, just brutal. I recall the same thing. We used to have a cabin out at a lake when I was a kid, and we'd go out there in the summertime, and it had a wood stove in it. That's all it had. Didn't have electricity. So if you wanted to cook something, you had to make a fire. And if you made a fire, oh boy, there's no way you could stay in that cabin while that thing was on. You saw all the windows open, doors open. You were sitting outside, and you'd run in and stir up your craft dinner and run back out. Yeah, it was amazing. An interesting program.
Well, Burnett's has risen from the ashes, Ken. Burnett's Nurseries. I've been selling plants out in my front yard because I got a surplus, right?
Yep.
I'm giving deals on them. I'm pretty much over, so don't be flocking around to Rhonda Crescent there for any more plants because. But I've sold dozens and dozens and dozens. Tomato plants, peppers, various basket stuffers, all sorts of plant material that have had more than I needed in the greenhouse. And so I thought, well, what the heck, I'm going to give people a deal. It's been fun to actually be selling plants again in our neighborhood. I look across the street from Cottonwoods when I visited a friend there that's in Cottonwoods. I look across the street, and the entire 3 acres that was Burnett's is now a parking lot, and the entire. And so I drove in and drove around through they still have the pavement there. It was in front of the flower shop, but the rest of it is just all compacted crush.
Well, they paved paradise and put up a parking lot.
Put up a parking lot. The irony of it is that one of the difficulties we had back in the day when we were just finishing up our run there in the 90s.
Yeah.
In the early 90s, this has started a problem with the folks at Cottonwoods parking in our parking area along Glenwood or on Ethel. So people would come and they say, "Oh, they're too busy. I'm not going to go in there." But it wasn't customers, it was
visitors.
So the irony of it is now that the whole place is a parking lot, which is cool. But at least it's that and not a big condo or something. It's owned by IH, and I appreciate the fact that it is.
Is the little pond still there?
No, it's all gone. Everything's gone. Yeah, and I actually was going to try and get a couple of those rocks because I hand-picked those rocks to put that pond in. Yeah, the only thing left is the pavement that was in front of the flower shop. They didn't rip that up. They used it as part of the parking lot. And the metasequoia, the Dawn redwood, is still there on Glenwood.
Yeah, metasequoia.
Everything else is gone.
Gyptostroboides.
Yeah. Anyway, the metasequoia is there. That's an interesting tree because it was one that was only known in fossil form up until the 1920s or something, and they discovered that up in Tibet. Yeah. They found some seedlings up in Tibet. And so now it's all over the place. I mean, Stanley Park is full of them.
And they have golden varieties and miniature varieties.
They've been playing with it.
Yeah, it's all kinds of things have come up now. So pretty cool.
You betcha. And we're getting now towards the end of the show, but we do appreciate your call. If you want to give us a shout, 1-888-780-4273. If you're calling from out of town, out of Clone area, 250-862-2525 if you're calling from the Kelowna area. I've been experimenting in the greenhouse, Ken, with Jiffy 7s. They've been around for years.
So these are peat pots.
Peat pots.
Peat pellets.
Peat pellets, yes. Not peat pots. The Jiffy pot came out in the 50s.
Pellet, yeah.
And it was a pot made out of peat moss. Right. Then the pellets came out, the Jiffy 7s, Jiffy 9s.
And that was like a little bag, and you'd soak it in water, and it expanded upwards and made a little miniature pot or a little miniature planting area for seedlings.
I'm going to talk to you about that. We've got a caller we want to talk to, but I'm really having good success, and I've never used them before. It's interesting for geraniums. Rooting. You get these rooted geraniums in, and they're all in Jiffy pots, Jiffy 7s and Jiffy 9s. And you think, oh, maybe I should try that. And I'm doing it, and it's working. Nice. Dandy from Kelowna, welcome to the show.
Sandy, not Dandy.
Oh, well, I've got Dandy here. Well, Sandy. You are a Dandy Sandy. How's that?
That's okay. And it ties right in because I overwintered my geraniums, and they're quite large. And the stalks are quite large but tall. I want to take cuttings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they're starting to bloom, but they're really tall, and I have to clamp them to keep them up.
Absolutely.
Well, ideally, you need some bottom heat. Sandy Dandy. We need some bottom heat because that's very, very important for geraniums. I've had terrible luck with geranium cuttings this year. I've got blackleg, which is not a good thing. Blackleg is a rhizoctonia, which comes in and or it might be pythium. It's hard to say, but it is a disease that gets geraniums when you're rooting cuttings. But I'm telling you, I am so excited about this. I'll have to show you next time you're by, Ken, how well they're doing in these little Jiffy.
They often I take cuttings earlier and put them in water, and they root, and most of them take, and some don't. And then you plant them and pull out the dead ones. But I didn't get to that, so they're very big and very, very stocky.
Yeah, well, cutting them back, Sandy, is a good way to go, and then try and root the cuttings that you take off, because you can bush them out by cutting them back. They respond well to that.
Yeah. Are you supposed to let them scab over a little bit once you cut them before you try, or right as soon as
over the years
they're moist?
Over the years, there have been so many ways to skin a cat when it comes to geraniums, and my dad used to take the cuttings, and he wouldn't cut them with a knife or shears. He would snap them off because it enabled the cells inside there to not break up. If you cut the cells in half, that opens them up to disease, I think. And then he would set them on the bench and let them kind of harden a little bit for a number of hours anyway, maybe overnight even.
Yeah,
and,
that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, and he would do that. But my dad had a green thumb. He could grow anything, anytime, anywhere. And that's the problem. I don't have a green thumb. I have to work at it.
You didn't inherit it.
I didn't inherit the green thumb. I inherited the passion.
You said it's in your blood.
It's in my blood, but the green thumb didn't come along with it.
Oh,
genetically, I genetically don't have a green thumb. I have to learn everything.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I've been trying to baby along a yellow European geranium for a few years, and it almost bit the dust. And so I've got one tiny little piece of that, and I'm trying to get it to.
You're talking about yellow foliage or yellow blossom?
Yellow blossoms.
Mm-hmm.
A geranium with yellow blossoms?
Yeah, and it's like the European flower, the little tiny flower. But yeah, I've had an awful time trying to keep it going, but still have one piece.
Yeah, if you can ever get 2 of those, give one away to somebody else, because sometimes it's just growing environment. Like for me, it's my water. My water is terrible, so I have a hard time growing plants. But if I get something that's really valuable, I'll try to multiply it if I can, and then give one to someone else to grow, just in case mine dies.
If it works through the summer, maybe I'll give John my little piece.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah,
over winter, and he could take a couple cuttings.
Sounds like fun, Sandy.
Cool.
Thank you.
Take care, girl.
Thanks,
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And we have Vicky calling in. Good morning, Vicky.
Good morning. I'm sorry about your geraniums. I've got geraniums all over the place. I've been giving them away.
Oh, dear.
And what I do is I take my cutting and I dip it. I have a pot with a little hole in it. I'm going to put it in. And I just sprinkle a little rooting hormone in that hole. And I've never lost one. And right now I've probably got 30 geraniums that I've been giving away because I have no more pots left.
Well, what medium do you use?
I just buy like the Scott's potting soil that has some sort of fertilizer or other in it.
Yeah, so it's So you root them in pots?
Yeah, right into dirt with a little rooting hormone in there, and they just go like crazy. And
you got the green thumb, girl.
Well, not really. The ones that I'm growing right now are the 4th generation of clones.
Wow. Well, you're doing well. And isn't it fun?
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah.
But the reason I called was I had a hosta that really overran where I had it. So I spoke to them at Bylands, and they said, it's very easy. Just cut it and move you can break it apart easy enough. Mm-hmm. So I did that, but now they're all lying down.
These are hostas?
Yes.
And you dug them when they were in full leaf?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, if you would have done it a little earlier, you wouldn't have had the issue. But they're not going to die, Vicky, because it's mainly the root and the crown that is important with hostas. You can move them pretty much at any time of the year and be successful, but the top will die down if you dig them. Sometimes when you dig them, when they're in full leaf, they'll die down, but they won't die completely. You cut those old leaves off and they'll shoot from the base again.
Okay, because where I had it, the stems for the leaf are about 2 feet long. They're like they were big.
Yeah. Well, and when you dig them at this time of year, when they've got full, you've disrupted that vascular motion of the materials coming up through and the moisture coming up into the plant, and so that leaf is going to fail. But the plant itself will be okay; it'll regrow again.
Okay, because I dug quite a big hole for each one. I broke it up into 5, and I actually poured I used 20-20-20 to water with, so I poured some of that in, and then I put the Scott's potting soil. Mm-hmm. I packed it around the hole so it would be all good soil,
right?
And then put it in and covered it up with the good soil, what I call good soil, what I bought, and I didn't expect them to all lie down.
Well, like I say, those leaves are probably toast, but they will shoot up from the base.
Oh, they will.
You bet.
Okay, so next year I'll have a nice crop.
Now, that was your question. The earlier part was just to rub salt in my wounds of my geraniums. I know that. But that's okay. We don't mind that, too. That's all part of the fun.
Would you like me to drop you off a fourth-year couple of clones?
I would love that. You're a dear. Thank you.
Okay. I'll text you.
Okay, dear.
There you go.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Thanks for calling.
We got to take that last break of the day here. We do have a caller calling in. Well, we do appreciate that. But we will be back with the Garden Show after this short break. Well, here we have, we're on the final lap here of the show this morning, but we've got Doug calling in. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey.
Good morning.
I have a question. My grapevines, for the most part, are dead, but I have something coming up from the ground or right at the base. Is it likely going to be the same varietal I started with, or is it rootstock?
Well, you know, like Ken was talking earlier. Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Well, if they're originally purchased like from a garden center, then
Yes,
they're likely going to be the right variety. So they're just a cutting, because they don't really sell the grafted ones in the garden centers typically, unless it was really a unique situation. But so they should be the same variety, and you know, the root is fine, so they should grow like mad. You know, and they'll grow right up, and you can retrain them onto your trellis, and then you know, maybe if were they a seedless variety?
No, Gewürztraminer, Pinot, and
these could be grafted.
Well, hard to say.
You know,
usually you know they're grafted because the price is crazy. You'll see all the grapes going there, and they're like whatever, you know, $12.99 or something, and all of a sudden they're $29.95.
Oh, I paid about $29.99 for them. So it might be grafted. Just a wait and see.
It's not super common that you'll get the grafted ones in garden centers, but not impossible. But like I say, it's just not common.
Well, I'll let them grow for the year and see what I get.
Yeah, but you brought up an interesting fact. You have vinifera's, the European grapes, and those European grapes all got hit hard this year. Now, Ken was saying that a lot of the European grapes out in the orchards, in vineyards, are on grafted. They're grafted onto a rootstock. Yours, hopefully, are not, and they'll come up true from the base. The Labrusca type, the North American grapes like the Himrod and the Interlaken and the Concord and the Buffaloes and all the different kinds of Labruscas, there's no dieback at all. They're all tough. They're North American grapes, and they're used to this. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear. Appreciate your call.
Good luck.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And, that was Doug, and we appreciate that call. You know, Ken, this year, it's really going to be tough on a lot of farms. We got to get in touch with Dominic and just see what's going on with the cherries, but it looks pretty rough. And the cherries, the peaches are pretty rough, too.
Yep. Yeah, I'd say the only things that are coming through without too many issues seem to be the some of the plums, the apples, and the pears.
The apples and pears are fine.
Those are sort of the three that seem to be okay. I think some of the plums are lightly damaged.
Yeah.
But it's just an oddball thing where, depending where you're at, you might have better or less success.
Well, the year 4950 was a winter that Dad talked about for years, talked about 4950, and he said he would drive by the apple orchards middle of winter, and you could hear them cracking, like the trees actually cracking. So that was the cold one, the 4950. I mean, 64, 65 was cold, 68, 69 was cold, and we will remember the 22, 23, and the 23, 24 winters as well as being devastating in many ways.
Yeah, and bizarrely warm. With an extreme cold snap in the middle.
Well, we've got Jim calling in from Victoria. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Hi. I had some tomato starts. They're Sweet 100s, and they all look fine, except one, the leader has very tight curls in the leaves.
Ooh,
can I just chop those off? It seems to be the leader. And
Well, the curly, there's a thing called curly top on tomatoes. You might want to look that up. Or it could be an infestation of some aphid. If you want, look very closely with a magnifying glass, see if you see any aphids in there, because that'll cause that curliness too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I couldn't see any, but no. I didn't open the curls.
Well, cut it back, pinch it back, and see what the side shoots do.
Yeah, and just open up those curls first before you do anything, and just see if you can find any aphids. What I do sometimes, I just take the top of the plant if I can, and just hold my hand out and sort of hit the top of the plant against the palm of my hand, and then you'll see if there's any aphids in there. They will drop into your hand, because they let go when they're disturbed. They just let go and fall. And so that's how you check for aphids really quick, because they do get up underneath the leaves, as Dawn was saying. They're all curled up and they're hiding in there. But if you just tap that top of the plant into your hand a few times, you get nothing. Chances are there's no insects. If it's curly top, the disease, it's a virus, and that plant would need to be rogued and removed and kept away from your other plants, because it will tend to spread around.
Yeah, curly top is not a good thing.
Yeah, I've got quite a few of them, and the others are fine, but that one isn't.
Well, keep it separate from the others just in case, and do Google curly top on tomatoes and see what you see there, and you might want to try pinching it back, and that's not going to hurt the plant, because pinching back is fine, and then they'll shoot up from the sides. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Good luck.
Thanks for the call, Jim. Appreciate the call.
Bye.
Just a quick thing before we take the break. In about 1 minute, we're going to have to say goodbye, but the tractor show is happening today at the Father Pandozzi Mission. What a great thing to take the kids and see some of this old machinery.
Yeah, the steam engines.
Oh,
my
the
God.
big steam engines rolling around, and also some old Model Ts and old cars, and lots of old tractors, and there's a little train thing that the kids can get on and toot around the grounds there. So take the kids, enjoy the day, grab a hot dog. That's what we're going to do. Tomorrow, we're going to go over tomorrow, but today and tomorrow at the Father Pandozzi Mission spot there on Ben Volen.
Yeah,
and there we go. What we're going to do now is slightly early, but we're going to do that anyway. We're going to start the tips and plants of the week. Well, my tip of the week is it's now time that if you have plants, various plants out there that you're waiting for them to push and waiting for them to leaf out, you can now really check that wood out and be safe to say you could probably cut back the dead wood. It's about time. I'd say it's over. time to go ahead and cut out the dead. My plant of the week is Aruncus dioecious, also known as the goat's beard or bride's feathers, and mine's just coming into bloom now. It's in a relatively shady area, but it will grow out in the full sun as well. It's a great plant, great filler, big perennial plant. Big plant.
Big and beautiful.
Yeah, you bet.
Lovely plant. All right, I also have a tip and a plant this week, and my tip of the week is that don't be surprised if your peaches or your soft fruit trees are not doing well this year. You're going to see a bit of leaf drop right now because of some of the diseases that are coming about due to weather conditions and a little bit of winter injury that they're still bouncing back from. But don't worry, by the time you get into summer, they'll regrow some new leaves and they'll be back on track and likely doing much better. Not necessarily getting any fruit, though, so we might have to wait till next year. All right, now my plant of the week this week is a sunburst locust, which is a beautiful golden tree that you see throughout the Okanagan, and I'm sure it's in a lot of different communities. Beautiful, bright golden leaves on these trees, and they're just a lovely tree to get. Very easy to grow, not too many pest problems, and quite drought tolerant, actually. So that's the sunburst locust, or the Gladitsia tricanthos, which is a tree that is a medium to large tree. So beware. All right, now my... just remember to check growercoach.com and YouTube for videos from Grower Coach. And, it's awesome.
My Shigo quote of the week is, the pale blue color of ice is due to hydrogen bonding of water. Well, there you go, another delightful thing from Alex Shigo.
Fabulous.
We're going to see you next week with more of The Garden Show.